You see these cameras in here? The moment you make a move, highly paid men with weapons will make their way into this room with one very specific instruction. It's not to save me. It's to kill your son. And that's a lot of bullets. And it only takes one for you to lose everything. So I have to ask you, because I know family is so important to you. Is that really a choice you want to make? Because I'm ready if you are.
If I pull this trigger, and God knows I wanna, if I killed everyone on this plane, I still couldn't get in there. Because you're a two-man fail-safe system. Since I'm alone, I got no choice.
Do you expect me to talk?
Hello and welcome to episode 182 of Do You Expect Us to Talk? I'm Becca and as always joined by my fellow co-hosts and co-drivers, Chris and Dave. How are you both?
Good evening, folks.
I'm fine, thank you very much, Becca. I think the word of today is family.
Family!
Yeah.
Always think of EastEnders randomly.
It's becoming a fetish by this point in the series.
Becoming an F&F fetish.
And anyone Dom works with for more than 3 or 4 minutes becomes a family member. It's great.
Even Kurt Russell.
His Christmases must be well expensive.
Especially the little one as well.
Yeah. Little Brian. We'll get to that.
Adding to the ranks.
Yeah. In universe, it doesn't quite work because it's a heartfelt tribute to a man who's still alive, but just can't be asked to turn up for anything.
Well, Brian would know what to do. Hey, we promised not to.
We promised not to bother him, but we thought we'd mention it for the vague soap opera feeling of this series.
It's like in a soap opera when, like, you know, a long-standing character who's now left, and they like refer back to him like every so often with like, oh, I've got like, you know, a postcard or something like that.
Yeah, but that's great. But you got married last week and you couldn't be asked to turn up.
No.
But yeah, you get a load of that sort of thing. It's really
There's
noted.
a few subtle references there in this film as well. Little nods here and there, little Easter eggs here and there. So.
Yeah, bear in mind. Well, I mean, I don't know what happened after the house was blown up, but like they seemed to live next door to each other at one point. Then it was I'm retiring, and now like they're naming a kid after him, and he's not even there to like hear this fulsome tribute.
No, he's there in spirit.
Mind you, sort of doing a bit of a weekend of Bernie's with it would have been a bit tasteless, wouldn't it?
And that would have been a different series altogether.
Just have a call.
Weekend at Brian's. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think we might be out of the sweet spot of this series by now. I don't know what you guys made of this. I saw it on opening release. So yeah, from here on in, I watched them as and when they came out. I went to watch this. Chris and I talked about it in a summer review at the time.
Yeah, you mentioned it on your summer podcast, didn't you?
Can't remember what I said about it, if I'm in all honesty. Can't remember if I liked it more or less than 7. I'm very clear on that now.
I remember you making a point how like the Marvel movies could actually learn from the Fast in terms of how to, or any sort of these
balance
big
sizable casts.
Yeah. I
do
seem to remember.
so.
It might be 7. In all fairness, I can't remember if we did talk about 7 on a summer review.
I might have been making a more general point about the series. That might have been in Do You Expect Us to Talk, not a Cinematronics episode. I got a feeling during one series we talked about. I said they could learn something from the the Fast franchise about balancing plots. I don't know what I was talking about though. I don't know if that was Marvel. I don't know what that was. I can't remember. I don't remember the context. There is something in that they keep adding people to this and it's still kind of working. the flaws with this film aren't really that the cast is too big. The flaws are basic logic, the complete fetishization of family, and the whole thing becoming a bit of a soap opera now, or continuing down that path anyway. Did you obviously you saw this on first release, Chris? Because we did talk about it on that summer review, but again, I can't really remember. I know how I feel about it relative to the last 2 or 3 weeks now. I can't remember what I thought at the time because we'd have been talking about it a few months after it came out.
Yeah, I think it's just like, business as normal. Really, it was just like, just going a bit more bonkers, giving stuff about family, but an enjoyable ride all the same. Yeah, if let's give a brief review of it, I think. But
yeah, what about you, Becca? Did you see it at the time?
I don't recall seeing this one at the time.
Yeah.
I think I might have skipped this one because it was a bit blockbuster overload, I think.
No Paul Walker, no deal.
No, sadly no. There was, he was the draw, and he wasn't in it, so not even the great Helen Mirren could entice me in.
Well, one scene in a bar as a parody, that was really going to save the film. She saved this film in the same way that Christopher Eccleston saved Thor: The Dark World.
It was really random. I mean, to be fair, obviously, Helen Mirren, she expressed an interest of wanting to, play like a villain or like a crazy driver in this film. So, she finally gets that chance now. And obviously, she's part of the twist, I'm going to say that in inverted commas, which is revealed towards the end of the film. And I just think she's brilliant. She did remind me a little bit of Pat Butcher from EastEnders with her blonde hair and the leopard spot coat that she wears and like the massive earrings.
Well, it's more Peggy with her Mitchell brother.
Oh, yeah, it might be. Yeah, actually, that's true. Actually, yeah, and Peggy Mitchell as well.
Get out my pub!
Get out my pub!
It is a proper Peggy Mitchell that voice, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's probably sort of Cockney geezer, isn't it? Pretty much. So yeah, you can imagine her as.
I just at the time when you first see it, he goes on. He uses a diversion and a load of help, which I think I realised there was going to be a reveal because it was a bit convenient. There was a van in the way, and stuff like that. So I knew there was a bit of like programming and pissing about going, but I thought he's involved with that van. There has to be
something going on.
He goes off to meet Helen Mirren, and they have a bit of a chat. And then after all this subterfuge, he's back, and you just think, was Dom just that desperate to meet Helen Mirren?
He really wanted to meet her.
It didn't seem any real point to it. Vin Diesel just wanted to, you're that desperate to cram Helen Mirren in. That's the only place.
Especially because, he wrote the role especially for her. So they created it especially just so she could be crammed in.
It has a point. If this film this goes against some of what I've said over the lifetime of this show, that I've sometimes said that this sort of linear build to just 20 minutes of action at the end of the film leaves me quite bored. But it's actually a weakness in this film that the best action sequence in it's halfway through. Because it's just kind of weak after that. The logic of the film's all over the place. You can sort of see them working it out as they go along as well, because when Scott Eastwood actually joins them properly, it just feels like they've actually released his screen test. Do you know what I mean? They're actually like just putting him with the crew to see how it works, but it's like a live audition as opposed to like off screen.
The problem with the Scott Eastwood role is, and I think the film kind of like sandbagged him. Really is. You first see him on screen, and he's a bit incompetent. You know what I mean? He's wet behind the ears. The first scene you see, you actually see Rock grab him and push him up against the wall sideways, and you're thinking, well, that just completely undermines him for the rest of the movie. Most of the other
men in this crew, the ones that throw fists anyway at any point, all fight on even terms for reasons we've sort of discussed. I haven't gone to the articles this week, but I recommend anyone just look them up. Google search however you interpret what we've been talking about. That there was a thing on, I think Twitter started saying, Dwayne Johnson was on there saying things like, if I look pissed in the end film, I was, as in pissed off
I think it was on Instagram, wasn't it? He kind of put that epic ranting post.
Yeah, and it was
basically how he didn't get on with some of his cast members.
And he was talking about turning up late, certain cast members not working as hard and turning up late and all that. It was clearly a reference to Vin Diesel.
They didn't get on famously during this film.
Yeah, I still think that it's a real life soap opera playing out, and this might all be some elaborate bullshit, and he'll be back for 10, and it was.
Well, you don't know. They might have made up in the interim.
Oh, I think they sort of have now, but I don't even know how much of that is sort of effectively choreographed.
No, yeah, it might be kind of advertising for the film.
Around the same time, the press were kind of a little bit, as much as they care about this series, of course, they were a little bit out for blood, and it leaked from who, I can't remember, but again, encourage anyone to go look it up. It's not really that important. But Vin Diesel had his sister sort of on the set scoring bouts, the choreography of bouts and stuff, so that none of them could, in whatever logic he applied to bouts, none of them could be seen as like winning or losing a fight. And they all kind of bought into this. So when you watch the film with that in mind, the fights are just these elaborate things ending in check with a bunch of men trying to look hard with egos that won't allow them to serve the story. And I think the series is kind of starting to eat itself at this point. It's trying to sort of top the last film constantly, and it's getting very silly now. The themes of family have been there since about film 4, I suppose, in a big way. But it's becoming almost a fetish now. It is a drinking game at this point. And every scene is trying to play into the comedy. And most of the comedy is people shit-talking each other. So it's going to be a real problem next week with Hobbs and Shaw, because Hobbs and Shaw's arc is in this film, but we're going to see them fucking do it again next week. And it's all shit-talking and one-liners, and, it's one step away from, your mother sucks my balls kind of humour. And I don't know. It's not getting any longer, really. I think this film's about a similar length to the last couple of weeks. But it's just starting to get a bit tiresome now. I'm kind of glad 9 has been delayed a little bit. Not the COVID delay, because that doesn't change anything in the film, as far as we know. But just the fact they took an extra year. I still enjoyed this, but I was a little bit bored in the final act. I've never seen Charlize Theron worse in anything. I think she's flat as fuck in this. And I just think it needs a bit of a rethink. They're just throwing all the greatest hits at the screen. Men who can't lose a fight. People looking hard all the time. Everything being about honour. Everything being about family. And I accept this series, warts and all. But it's just falling out of the sweet spot at this point. And I think next week is even worse. But we'll see. What did you think, Becca?
Yeah, I had a bit of a mixed time with this one. I found it to be the funniest of the series so far. Certainly one of the funnier films. And
it's trying really hard as well.
It is, yeah, definitely. I don't mean funny. Kind of. There's perhaps one or two moments where it was unintentionally funny, but there has some really funny lines. Yeah. Like Statham in it, I think is hilarious. Anybody listeners, go and watch the movie Spy. He does a really brilliant comic turn in that. So that I can't recommend that film high enough. He
turns up every few minutes in that film in almost like a series of cameos, and
he's hilarious.
They're all really funny. Yeah,
definitely recommend that film.
He's far funnier than the film. Yeah,
he is, exactly.
Yeah,
but no, he's just. I was like, this is hitherto undiscovered. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, I kind of felt. I was just a bit. Let down ultimately. I thought it was really good for a film, a series that's been going for this long, to reach kind of the 8th installment and to kind of not be flagging a little bit. Got to probably about 3/4 of the way through, and I thought it kind of it's one of those films that's kind of it ends quite a few different times. Got one or two endings that perhaps could have gone in the bin. But it's funny action, still like edge of your seat. Lots of new, a few new characters, a few new faces. Especially obviously Scott Eastwood, trying to channel his dad, Kurt Russell, still don't know much about him, but he still owns every scene that he's in. Amazing cameo from Helen Mirren as well, because she's also uncredited, playing Putt Butcher / Peggy Mitchell. It was really fantastic, to see her as well, because she's just an absolute joy whenever she's on screen. I would kind of agree with you, Dave, about Charlize Theron as well. It's always great to see her. She does, fantastic performance in whatever she's in. I think here she was trying to play somebody who's kind of very, obviously, because she's a Cipher essentially, and so she's kind of like a character who kind of just slips in, does the damage, and then slips out again. You can't trace her or anything like that. And she kind of plays the cards very close to her chest. But yeah, I think she did come off rather than like menacing. She did come off a little bit kind of flat and a little bit like, it's quite dull. She didn't really have a lot to do.
By the way, but that's the unintentional effect.
No,
on me anyway. I mean, a lot of people might have enjoyed this performance, and I have no criticism of that. It just struck me as flat and a bit dull.
I think it was deliberately kind of pared back though, because she's somebody who's used to kind of like playing, pulling the strings, being in the shadows, and controlling all the puppet master essentially. And she's kind of forced out into the open. And
it is a choice. She's too good an actress to just be crap.
Yeah, it would be a choice that she's made, but she still came off as kind of as quite menacing and quite dangerous. And then when obviously I think of all the villains in this series, I think she's probably the only one of a few who have actually managed to escape and still at large by the end of the film. So you kind of think, oh bugger, she can do some real damage.
Soap opera. They didn't kill Nasty Nick off for about.
No, exactly, they didn't.
Did they?
Didn't jump in the canal, did he? No.
Has he actually died twice? Nasty Nick.
I doubt any of us watch EastEnders, by the way. We just know some of the characters from years.
It's been going like 9 or 30 years, and it's like
35.
It's like this is a like iconic British soap. So like
shit is the word you're looking for.
I remember like when I was doing my study abroad in the States, I remember it was on. Oh god, it was like BBC America or something like that. One of the in those sort of channels, and it was who's the ex-Doctor Who actress who used to be in it? I can't remember her name. But it was when they had like the Italian family, and I'm really sorry about that, but I can't remember their names. I do apologise. I don't watch it.
I know who you were on about.
But it was like 04, 05.
Like the Tom Baker era or something.
Yeah, that was it. It's going to annoy me.
Louise Jameson.
That was it. Louise Jameson, just legendary.
I don't know
Louise
where
Jameson.
I pulled that out my fucking ass
no, well done, Dave. Expert knowledge from you there, Dave. Thank you. Yeah, it's well that she spent a brief spell in it, and I was like, obviously getting a bit homesick, being there a couple of months, and I just remember like trying to get some of my housemates around to enjoy a bit of British culture, and they were like, you know what they're saying.
I was homesick, then I threw on EastEnders, and I'm like,
exactly.
I'm all right here, thanks.
And I was having to translate the whole time, and I was like, oh, the bloody hell. And yeah, because I don't watch it essentially, but it's one of those things, it's been on for like 30, 35 years, and it's always seems to be kind of like a touch point of British culture, things like that. So
we've mentioned 3 characters so far during this show, and they have all permeated into like common general knowledge.
So if somebody goes up, then you instantly know what you're talking about.
Nasty Nick Cockney he was a character in it. It was like drugged up and nasty to his mum and everything like that. And he just came back. He was never a regular, I don't think. He came back every couple of years for like decades, and got up to some shenanigans and went again. And that's the link I'm making here. The fact that unless they really have exhausted their impact, or you really want the ratings blast of like them being killed off, you don't kill your villains that often. Certainly if they have a little bit of the sort of anti-hero about them as well, they just stick around, and you keep bringing them back if you can. And that's the way this series has gone now. They didn't want to use sort of someone with Charlize Theron's stature as one and done. And frankly, the last 3 or 4 villains have stuck around anyway. So yeah,
she'll probably join Dom's team in next films.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
As they go off to have a fist fight with the Sun.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't mean like Rupert Murdoch, because I think they'd win that, but the
He's
press
old.
would admit it. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just a little bit of a mess, and the whole idea of like Dom turns evil, but we kind of know he isn't, and he can't tell anyone. It's just all
it's a bit. I think this
it's
is
all
probably,
very melodrama.
It's kind of good. Obviously, we've been on that kind of slide, not like a downward slide, but sort of like obviously when we started off with the series, it was very much about like street racing cars, and obviously it's slowly kind of morphed into this kind of like heist movie, spy movie. And I think here, especially this film and the last couple of films.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
Get in the guy who stole some DVD players. We can.
It's gone a long way since then. It's come a long way since stealing DVD players. But I was just getting massive like Bond vibes. I think I was kind of got like obviously like Dine of Day, GoldenEye, View to a Kill. Anything that's kind of vaguely set. There's a ski scene or an ice scene. All kinds of Bond movie vibes from this film. So.
Some of the effects don't quite stand up. Actually, I mean, the very last scene of the film is like a New York penthouse apartment.
Yeah, rooftop apartment type thing.
That is green screen as fuck. That is without doubt not shot anywhere.
I must say, some of the visuals in this film. I mean, this series definitely does pride itself on really high quality in camera effects. If they can do it, if you could do a stunt or do an effect for real, why not? And it's it's done to really high standards. I think that's helped kind of raise the bar in terms of in terms of special effects and visual effects. Yeah. But here I kind of felt that there was quite a lot of visuals that perhaps weren't quite up there, but it didn't spoil my enjoyment. It still looked good, still really great car-eography, dare I say it.
Choreography.
Lots to enjoy.
Choreography, yeah, it's fairly well shot.
I don't know what the word is for it. Choreography.
Yeah, this is F. Gary Gray this time. I don't know if I've even seen Friday, but I know he did The Negotiator. But he really sort of came to public prominence in this country with the Italian Job remake. In that, like, a load of people had seen the stuff he'd done before, but the Italian Job permeated like public consciousness. Oh, they've remade the Italian Job.
Charlize Theron was in that as well.
Charlize Theron was in that as well. With
and
Mark
Jason Statham.
Yeah, there we are.
And it's not very good. It's not as bad as it could have been. I thought this is going to be terrible, and it was okay. But honestly, the car work in the first film's better.
Oh, Friday as well.
Yeah, he did Then I knew him from Be Cool. Then he did a crap Gerard Butler film.
Shut up,
I have not seen.
Which is quite popular, actually. A lot of people like that.
Law-abiding Citizen. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen it.
No, it's not.
I might check it out.
Okay. Good luck with that. You know the sort of work Gerard Butler does, and this is not out of keeping with his average standard.
Oh, okay.
Straight Outta Compton I've not seen. That's well thought of. And
yeah, that's a legendary film.
Men in Black International was fucking awful.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
It's not good. I wouldn't bother. It's like the weakest remake of Men in Black you can imagine, really. The series just has nothing new to say. And the fact that there's 4, 6, 8, 10 years, whatever it is between installments of that series tells you something.
Yeah.
That there's no public demand for it. But every now and again, Sony take a look at their slate and go, what have we got we can try to make something of again? And every now and again, as they change their executives, somebody comes in and decides they're going to have a crack at trying to make Men in Black viable again. And it comes back, it's never very good, and it disappears again for another fucking decade or so. And that's what's going to happen with this film. Down the line, someone will have another go at Men in Black. But it ain't going to happen anytime soon, and it's unlikely to happen with Chris Hemsworth, because that film was crap.
No, they're probably going to reboot it.
Well, it's a viable IP for a studio that needs them. Or they think it might be a viable IP for a studio that needs them.
Mm. The thing is, though, the concept isn't that appealing. I mean,
it's not that strong.
It's not. I mean, if it was anything, it was Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones that was the main appeal, or Will Smith, or whatever. That was.
I don't really think it was the concept. In fact, it was still back in an era where there wasn't a lot of internet around. It was still there if you could find it or wanted to use it, but I went into that film not knowing very much. I think I might have seen before I went in Saving the World from the Scum of the Universe. I've said this in a podcast with Chris before, that when it first came out, the posters arrived long before trailers and anything was known about the film. So you'd go into like an HMV, remember them folks?
Oh god, yeah, do you remember those?
And you'd be flicking through the posters, and there'd be some quite cool looking posters for Men in Black without us knowing what it was. And then when it came, just before it came out, I thought it was going to be a family-friendly Reservoir Dogs.
Well,
based on
Willie
the
Jones, Will Smith.
yeah,
What
kind
could
of
go
a,
wrong?
kind of a cool crimey heist film, but more family friendly because of the people that are in it. And of course, it turns out not to be that. And I never thought the first was as good as its hype, and I never thought like its first and second sequels were as bad as its reputation. But I didn't think it was that great a series in the first place. And when you go and watch Men in Black International, it's just got no reason for being. It really doesn't. Even down to they're not sure how much to reference the past. So there's artwork on the wall with J&K in it. And you do see like Emma Thompson just to reassure audiences that if this is a success, it can live within its existing continuity. So if Will Smith ever turned around and says, yes, I'm happy to come back, you can. Yeah, exactly. So they go out of their way to try and be new, but try and be exactly what they were before.
Yeah, so they got one foot in the past and
twist
one foot
is
in
the
the
most
future.
obvious fucking thing in the world. And everyone just looks like, what are we here for?
Yeah, for the paycheck.
Chris Hemsworth has pretty good chemistry with, what's she called? From Creed and Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Tessa Thompson, no.
Tessa Thompson, it is Tessa Thompson. They're pretty good chemistry, but that was about it. The film had absolutely nothing to offer. And the only thing that gives me pause in F. Gary Gray's filmography is the stuff I've not seen. Because I don't think I've seen Friday. I don't think it appealed to me when it came out. And Straight Outta Compton I've not seen either. And those are the two films that have some kind of cachet for him. So maybe he's better than that. But when I look at the stuff I have seen, like the Italian Job remake, The Negotiator's nothing special, Law Abiding Citizens I didn't like very much, Be Cool's awful, Men in Black International's crap, and this is the worst entry in this series since the fourth.
Oh, God.
So I'm not sure how much I rate this guy, to be honest.
Maybe he just needs something, really, really kind of quite big to push him out there again, to get back to those levels of like Friday and Straight Outta Compton, for example.
Maybe he's just very script dependent.
Well, you look at his, and his jobs are very. Well, I say jobs. His films are very varied. There's no sort of like set like, oh, I'm an action thriller kind of guy, or I'm a horror type
he's
of guy.
versatile and doesn't pigeonhole himself.
So which says to me he's kind of like a bit more of a jobbing, like almost like maybe like as Dave would say, a safe pair of hands. Someone who like, yeah, I get that job done.
Yeah.
His films tend to sort of vary in tone.
So he's pound shop Ron Howard.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I think.
I'm looking at his life and career here, Chris. Sorry to talk across you, but I'm seeing that he did music videos for Ice Cube, Cypress Hill, Dr. Dre, and so on.
Cool.
And then Straight Outta Compton comes out to acclaim, and I'm thinking, well, just maybe that material just meant something more to him.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I think it's obviously that was quite heavily produced by Dre and Cube as well. So it was probably just like, someone that they know and trust, and they get. But I think it was probably mostly like, well produced rather than
he shepherded their story.
Mm.
Yeah, okay.
But then again, it's like there's something to it. The guy is regularly works. He probably keeps the schedule. Keeps the budget. Whatever. There is something to say about that, and I don't know.
I'm not calling him crap. I'm not calling him crap, but like there are bits of James Wan's career and bits of Justin Lin's career, largely this series, to be fair, that I can look at and go, yeah, I can see the ability there. With this guy, he's all right, and actually, when you look through his filmography, it's like quite mixed, both in styles and end result.
You don't know kind of how much like the studio or other writers or how obviously you can speak about the director's vision and authorship and all that kind of thing as well, but you've also got other factors to consider as well. But yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? He does have quite a varied pockmarked career.
Yeah, and of course I mentioned Men in Black International, and we know from other stories that Sony are rather hands-on, shall we say?
They're quite involved, which is fine. As a studio, you maybe want to do that.
It's all result dependent. If the result comes out great, you go with the studio. We're really judicious in getting involved.
Yeah.
And if it's crap, they've ruined the director's vision.
They're bastards.
Yeah.
No, it's so risky at the moment as well, isn't it? Especially with COVID as well. It's just trying to get audiences to get bums on seats again, it's so difficult. So I can understand studios wanting to be cautious or wanting to be all over productions, or wanting to be quite heavily involved.
I mean, there's the rumor about Tenet. I only read in the last hour or so, and I don't know the truth of this, but Warner's want to delay it, and they're actually not to placate the director because he doesn't want to move it.
No, he's pushing for that July release, wasn't he?
It depends on your power level, I guess. And obviously, he is now one of the prestige directors of his generation.
Then if you push it back, you're going to be going up against Bond, and
Well,
I think they're all going to be compromised this year, even if they do come out. I don't believe Bond will come out and do like 1.2 billion or something.
No, I don't think we're going to see a kind of Skyfall Spectre return, but it'll still be up there, definitely.
I don't think we can say definitely because we don't know what percentage. Some of the audiences will go back. I've already seen people saying, "I'll be there day one for whatever, just to go to the cinema."
In the old cinema.
That's fine, but you've only got to have 20-30% of people that say, "Fuck that, I'm not going."
Yeah, exactly.
And Bond suddenly stops being a 900, maybe £1 billion proposition and becomes a 600 million pound proposition.
I mean, surely COVID can be the only reason.
Well, there's not been much social distancing. I mean, just look at the queues out of Primark today.
Well, I know.
So
a lot of people still
I remain a bit more.
I
remain a bit.
Somebody on Facebook, he's in Germany, went to the cinema to see something. I don't know what he saw, can't remember.
I hope he lived in Germany, or otherwise that was really committed.
Yes, I know he's
I swam there.
Yes, he lives there. And I kind of thought, oh, it's quite interesting because it's the first example of it that I've heard of in Europe. And I think what they did is they only let in, 10 or 20 people.
That's the point.
Or they're letting the cinema out, but rather than like some cinemas you've heard in the States, like removing seats, or sort of making significant changes to the layout. I think obviously they kind of put screens up. They obviously block some seats off and
exactly. If they drop it to, even if they dropped it to a meter, that's not going to work in current cinemas. There is going to be a lessened footfall. If there's some miracle by which they suddenly go, actually, for whatever reason, the moment you walk into a cinema, COVID cannot penetrate the walls of it, it's safe. Even if you allowed the same sort of capacity in these places, it's going to take a fairly big film to come out for us to see what it does, to be absolutely sure. And that film is not Tenet because it's an original property. And yes, it's Christopher Nolan, but if you look at the returns of his last 3 or 4 films, they're good, but they are a bit variable. So if Tenet comes out and does 400 million, you don't know if it's because that's what Tenet was going to do, or whether it would have done Inception money but just didn't quite make it.
Yeah,
so
you don't know.
I really don't know. It's going to take Wonder Woman to come out, and let's see what happens there. If Wonder Woman doesn't crack $1 billion, there's a problem. Because the first one did nearly 900, and in these series, the second film does tend to do better when the first one's acclaimed. So
cycle through.
It's going to be damaged. It's just going to be damaged. It is.
Well, it's hard to know. I think Wonder Woman's kind of already
It's just how much.
I think Wonder Woman's already kind of compromised without the virus. I think because a lot of pushback with dates. I don't know. But again, we kind of remain to be seen on that one.
I just can't believe it's going to be unhurt. If you ask,
it's the same as anything, isn't it? It's going to take a massive hit. So
at least 2 of them are going to say, "I'm not going till there's a vaccine or a treatment," or whatever. It doesn't matter whether you go, Chris. It only takes a few people not to go, and it's damaged. So
exactly. The same with like sporting events as well. I mean, like some people, obviously sport is reopening around the world, especially here in England as well, kind of obviously behind closed doors. But it's not something that obviously you can attend a sporting event virtually, but as again something like with Tenet or Bond, which I can't see is going to scream. I just found his profile. Sorry, he said he went to the cinema some months ago. Says they only used every second row, and in each row a maximum of 4 people, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, or 2 in the middle. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So that was like a week ago. And he didn't have to wear masks or anything like that, so I understand. So So I just thought I'd find that out. I think that was interesting.
The fact is, they're still learning about the illness, and we're hearing it's a lot more dangerous indoors and things like that. It's just, it doesn't matter that there are a lot of people. I keep saying the same thing, really. So I'll shut up in a minute. But we keep saying that like people will go. Yes, people will go, but in what numbers? I mean, I've heard this about retail as well. That people are saying, well, I've heard retailers saying things like, well, it's fine that the doors are open now, but you've only got to lose about 20% and we're in trouble.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of the high targets that places used to have, people that, shops are going to expect, because there are quite a lot of retailers that perhaps aren't open as yet, or that are doing a phase reopen or having like reduced hours, for example. And I think they're going to, see a sort of drop certainly around like 20 or 30% even more in takings. I mean, especially if you're like a smaller independent retailer, it's fine for probably like Primark or Sports Direct, that, the two biggest queues that we seem to see reported on the news today. Oh my god.
So we've gone off topic a little bit.
We have
and
also out of topic. Sorry
I can't remember where it started. Are we blaming COVID on the fact that Gary Gray remade The Italian Job?
Pretty much, yeah. No. Sorry.
Bastard. You should leave these sacred cows alone. People's infection.
Yeah. That is the reason why COVID exists in lots of long short.
It wasn't a bat. It was a sacred cow. Yeah. So
it took like 2 decades in the make. Yeah.
2003 that film was. Did you see Manor Park? 'Cause I haven't seen that.
I saw that at cinema actually. Yeah. Manor Park is a Vin Diesel kind of grizzled. I don't think it's anything remarkable, but if you like that kind of like grizzled cop undercover revenge type of film, it's okay. I think it depends on like if it plays to your taste or not. But if you kind of like give or take him, then it's not going to sort of mean much to you. But again, it's completely done. It's one of Vin Diesel's more gruff, serious early work.
So with regard to this, I had a very mixed experience. You too, Becca? Were you saying more or less?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised by how like a film this late. Obviously, you expect like with Bond, for example, it's the longest running series. Some films, obviously, any sort of long running franchise, you're going to get some films are going to be amazing, some films less so. But yeah, I was kind of overall impressed by how the fact that keep going so long, and even to have like bigger and bolder stunts. But I was kind of very mixed. Some things I thought were incredible, some things I kind of thought were not so much. But yeah, mixed. But yeah, I'd probably say 3 out of 5. Give it the old 3 out of 5.
That's the only mark you ever give out of 5.
I literally can't do more. 2's too harsh, I feel. 4.
No, but what I mean is, if it is in your head a 4, a 5, a 1, or a 2, you don't tell us.
Listen, right. If it's 1 or 2, it's got to be like The Room bad, or Troll 2, or any of those sort of movies. Like 4 or 5 or whatever, it's got to be like Citizen Kane. It's got to be like Commercial of Love, Goldfingers, all that kind of stuff. It's got to be like amazing, basically. But yeah, for me, I would be like
films are 3 out of 5.
Most films.
Nearly all of them, in fact.
I'll give it 3.5 for the inclusion of Helen Mirren. But yeah, mixed, I would say. To answer your question, mixed, I would say.
Yeah, I'll give my first thoughts. Getting into 40 minutes into recording.
That's about normal, isn't it?
I first watched this at the cinema on release, definitely, and to me it was just pretty much same old. It was like
standard issue.
This is fine. This is exactly what I came for. Obviously it's ridiculous, but by that point, I don't really sort of go for its ridiculousness. I just sort of go, I'll put up with the family crap and just give me just kind of fun shit on screen. And yeah, I enjoy myself. And this viewing, I'm going to be a lot kinder than you guys. I actually really enjoyed it. Again, all the criticisms are valid. Obviously family again. It is a bit silly, especially over here about all the behind the scenes stuff. But for the large part of it, I kind of really just got behind it. It was just a fun experience all round. Obviously the things like, as I mentioned, Paul, Scott Eastwood stuff just didn't work, but I don't think it's really his fault. I
thought he was harshly treated at the time, actually.
Yeah.
I could see him fitting in with that crew. I don't think this was quite the right workings of how to do it. But if we turn up in the next film and he's one of the team, you do wonder about the size of it. But I think not the size of him, but you know what I mean. But I think it would probably work okay.
Yeah. Because I think he's also a bit of a car fan as well. I think I might remember, but as well, so it would have kind of worked a bit. But anyway, Charlize Theron. I enjoyed her performance. Not saying it's going to be like one of the performances of the year kind of thing, because it's Fast and Furious. So, but I think it's like, it's nice to have like a villain who is a name and has screen presence, and there is an element to her which is just like Ice Queen playing it cool. I think there is a little bit more to it, because particularly when Dom's doing his like hiding in the bonnet and the van covers up, you kind of like see her kind of getting pissed off, and I think that's kind of where her character is. She wants to know everything at all times, and so when she doesn't, that's when she like kind of like panic. So I think that's probably where her character is, and obviously as well as not having like any real personality of her own, that's probably considered as well. So I enjoyed that aspect. Stave was great. I think they did better stuff with him and The Rock in this film than they do next week. I remember, because I think it's sort of the way they bounce off each other. In terms
next
of, like,
week, it's the centerpiece of next week. That's the problem.
Yeah. And I don't know why, I don't know how, but somehow it just seemed better this time. It just seemed better than Hobbs and Shaw film. Like them two kind of.
Yeah, I think that would be the one clarification I'd make, that for everything I've just said, I kind of enjoyed this. I had a bit of a problem with the third act, but I enjoyed it. It's kind of what a Fast and Furious film looks like now. Hobbs and Shaw, as I recall, I didn't enjoy it all, although I've not revisited it yet.
Mm.
No, I don't think I saw that one on release, so looking forward to
It's
seeing
really,
it as I missed
I
it.
found
But
it really lazy, but we'll see. We'll see how I find it in the week.
But yeah, I thought the action was pretty good, relatively speaking. It's got quite, the stuff in New York's quite, it's got quite good, good setup with all the other cars.
it's the first time the series has been to New York as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it kind of really, you feel it breathe, and it's a character in the film.
Oh, definitely. It's nice to sort of. It's a nice city to feel to be in anyway. On camera. What else to say? Yeah. I think obviously Dom going bad. Well, obviously that's a new angle for him. But everyone, we all knew that he wasn't really. I mean, it's set up from the beginning. When we see.
No, we know he's conned into something. We just don't know what it is he's looking at.
It's what it is, isn't it? And the scene when Lady dies actually is quite. Aw, she was fit. No, I'm joking, but no, it was. It
is always sadder when they're fit. That's why Tracy.
That was quite a heartbreaking moment.
That's why Tracy dying's more upsetting than like M dying.
Oh, a bit of ageism there. Oh my god.
No, it's not. It's nowhere near that shallow. It's because I fancy one and not.
No, I'm joking. Don't worry. But obviously, she's a very beautiful woman. So very, very sad.
But, no.
Only joking.
Joking aside, it was things like that the film is struggling with, because it's trying to reach back to find something to tug on a heartstring, and it doesn't really work. Although she plays the scene very well.
Yeah, and I thought Diesel does as well. I just thought.
I think he's much underrated, but there you go.
Yeah, this is more like emotionally impactful role, isn't it? I think
part of it's his fault in the choices he makes, because I've seen enough of him now to think there's a little bit more range to him than we generally see. That's all. Because when he's asked to emote something, he tends to convince me. So, but if he wants to walk around looking like he's carved out of granite, then fine.
The only other thing I would say is, and this just kind of goes for the series as a whole, is just how well, there's a lot of like sort of stuff that gets talked about, like like lack of diversity and things like that. And I think what the Fast franchise does really well is you have like this big array of cast of like all different like ethnic backgrounds, and it just kind of just gets on with it with its key messaging of like family and brotherhood and things like that.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's,
I suppose if you go through it, we've got a Maori, we've got white British. I believe Vin Diesel is mixed race to some degree or another. We've got a Latina.
We've had Oriental, Han.
Really diverse, isn't it?
Far East Asian with Han. What's Elsa from? She's like Nordic, isn't she?
Yeah.
Charlize Theron, South African. So there's a reason.
Yeah, in generally, even within the team, like the sort of good guy, there is.
It's a celebration of diversity.
And I think sometimes like the Fast doesn't get enough credit for that. I think that's because it just doesn't sort of like stop and makes a big point about it at any point. It just goes like family and cracks on. So I think it should be commended for that.
I think so. And
definitely,
they do have chemistry. There's an element of cheese to it, but it kind of works.
Yeah.
Shall we discuss this film sequentially, folks?
Yes.
Because the opening, having just rehabilitated my opinion by giving it a little bit of credit, the opening sequence is fucking mental.
If you haven't guessed, we're discussing Fast 8.
Hey, yeah. Have we not done that? Shit. Becca, what are we covering tonight? Pointless now, isn't it?
That's what I'm just going to say. We've reached
the fate of the Furious.
The Fate of the Furious.
Bollocks. I forgot about that. That's very rare we forget that, but it's a bit silly to go through.
If you've been listening along, they're going to know which film we're at now. So
well, it's a weird thing, is that
Driving Miss Daisy, starring
like
we're discussing Die Another Day. Sorry.
The title of these films just really confused me because like you'll go in and see the poster and it'll be like Fate of the Furious, and then you'll sit in your seat and the title will come up. It'll say Fast and Furious 8.
Exactly. And plus, you might have different titles around the world as well. So it might be, Fate of the Furious in one territory, but then it's Fast and Furious 8 in a different territory, or it might be Fast and Furious 8 : Fate of the Furious. It might be some other different title.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the 8 of the Furious.
Yeah,
Sorry, a lot of vagina.
The thing is, you'll pick up like the title and it will say Fate of the Furious, but then then you watch the movie and it says like Fast and Furious 8, or then like with Fast and Furious 7 and Fast and Furious 6, it'll say Furious 6 and Furious 7. It's really fucking weird.
Yeah, I wrote to my MP about it, and she was like, I don't deal with that sort of shit. What are you talking about?
Dear David, I really, really do not care. You're sincere.
I don't give a shit. That's a lot.
Yes, Avengers Assemble was a fucking disgrace, though. Lots of love. Safe Tory seat. Anyway, I think Fate of the Furious is its title. I think the Fast and Furious 8 is just where they use it in territories that they're not quite as sure they're going to get as big a box office, just to be absolutely sure the audience know what they're watching. We've been Avengers Assembled on it. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean,
although the rip I watched did come up Fast and Furious 8 on screen, but then I guess it depends what version you're watching.
Oh, excuse me.
So, Dom and Letty are on honeymoon.
In Cuba.
In Cuba. That sweet spot of about 6 months when Americans could go to Cuba.
Literally a 6 month window when you could travel to Cuba.
They can't now. Because
I've got a fun fact about that coming up at the end of the show.
Right, the only reason that got reversed is Trump went, who enacted that?
Get rid of it.
Change that. So you can't go to Cuba again now. But
all
they did.
that hard work has now been undone.
I don't give a shit, to be honest. But it is shot in Cuba, which makes it a bit of a sort of time capsule, strangely, because it may not happen again anytime soon.
To be honest, I don't think it really matters to the series.
No, I don't think it does, but it is just one of those things that we've had Cuba represented in a number of films where it wasn't. It was shot. It was shot. No, it wasn't.
Die Another Day.
It was shot in the Dominican Republic, or in the case of Die Another Day, they used Spain. Whereas here they were clearly showing us streets and landmarks and stuff. Having never been to Cuba or seen Cuba, cinematically, what it most reminded me of was Haiti in Quantum of Solace. It looks
it did kind of have that vibe, didn't it?
Reminded me of that.
But it's kind of very obviously, so because I think when the image, especially that we have of Cuba, is obviously kind of it hasn't really moved on beyond the 50s. I'm sure it obviously has, but it retains a lot of the kind of old world, so like 50s, especially with the old cars as well. It's very kind of nostalgic, I would say, for that kind of era.
Yeah, that's shorthand for we don't know anything about Cuba.
I thought I'd try and find some fun facts about it at the end of the show, but I've got a whole variety.
Other than old-fashioned cars and crumbly buildings.
Yes, and how representative
Castro.
That is, no idea.
Literally cigars, old cars, Castro.
Yeah.
American embargo.
Yeah. So
that's my knowledge of Cuba, unfortunately. Oh, and it's been in Bond films, so.
So
yeah, that's really bad. Apologies.
Yeah, because they shot it in Spain when they did Die Another Day. I forget where it was. Cadiz, like that.
You know, put on David Arnold's music.
Anyway. Yeah, Dom has a cousin who lives in Cuba, apparently, and
he's got family everywhere.
Yeah, and obviously he's in a bit of trouble. He's with is it like a loan shark type guy?
It is.
Yeah.
He owes money, and so the guy's going to take his car.
And he needs
unless
it to
he can
work
pay immediately. But Dom is there, and
yeah, I like how he's sort of like at first he was on the shot on the loan shark side because like you got to
pay your debts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for some reason he just insults Letty. Because why would you do that anyway? It's like, well, he's already like. It's what you say. Well, you got to pay your debts.
I know. You've already got this quite big, muscly, dangerous guy in universe on your side. So like, don't piss it off. Don't piss him off. Yeah. So I'm going to keep it about the cars, he says, and I think what a man of honor. So they're going to race, wagering Dom's car, which is apparently a Chevrolet Impala.
You don't say.
And that's about as much as I knew.
That's as much as we know.
Yeah, Chevy Impala. Because
if I float over the link, that's a much newer car I'm looking at. So it's obviously an earlier version of.
And it's red.
It's my car. That's all I can say.
That's fun, folks.
So he drives a car. One is red, one is black. There it is.
I'm just thinking of like to amp up the difficulty, because Dom has effortlessly won most races in this series, except if he's racing Paul Walker, and even then most of the time. So they have him drive the shitty car that the cousin is about to have repossessed. All that kind of makes sense because you're amping it up and all the rest of it, and it's about the man behind the
wheel. Yeah, it's the man behind the wheel, not the car.
Yeah, tell any driver in a shit Formula One team that.
Well, he can't. The things though, it's kind of like, you know, when there's a will, there's a way, and there's like kind of, well, I'll just like do these like really sort of wildly dangerous stuff, and yes, I'll win, but I know I'll end up like destroying the whole car.
This is mental, but in kind of an endearing way.
Yeah,
because I just imagined the sort of story meeting where they broke this. How can we up the stake? How can we have a good reveal? Let's have him go through the line backwards on fire.
But he's on fire, you know, and considering he wins by like a hair's breadth.
Yeah. They customised the car unless he says it's going to be a bomb. It only has to make a mile. And then he's frantically waving at the crowd he's reversing towards.
Literally, everyone's trying to get closer, and it's like, get out the way.
I mean, yeah, I was like, how stupid is this crowd? Yes, I'll just like sort of run directly, crowding.
Oh, let's go in towards it.
They stood right in front of the finish line.
Get out the way.
And so they run towards it. They literally are running like as in unison.
It leaps out of this car, it hits the wall of the sort of water, flips up into the air and sort of explodes, and Dom's unhurt because he always is.
It's amazing how people come out of this film unscathed. I think that's incredible. It's a typical kind of action movie trope, isn't it? You kind of, you know, there's no kind of damage or bruises or, you know, anything like that. it's amazing.
Bear in mind, this is just like, a casual day for him. It's like, oh yeah, just
Yeah, it's just walk in the park. It's a normal day.
Yeah, this is just
Nearly
like
died,
a
it's
diversion
fine.
on the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the important thing, Chris, is they've won each other's respect.
Yeah, he's won his respect.
Which
And
is good enough.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, the loan shark smiles, and he's made a friend. He makes a point out of this before, later on with Cipher. He sort of says,
I changed him.
Yeah. Sort of,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So Raldo gets Dom's car, and then everyone's really happy. Party atmosphere, titles, and then Dom fucks Letty to celebrate. A bit of how's your father? And then they have a talk about whether they want children, which I can't see that coming back in the story at all.
Yeah. I wonder where this is going.
Well, literally in the next scene, we're going to find later, in the very next scene, he finds out he's a dad. I mean, how on the nose is this?
Blink and it happens.
Right. But we don't know this yet. So, yes, obviously he's gone to get some food. And
did a bit of shopping.
Yeah. And
shopping?
Is it just me? It's like, you always have to it's always like a baguette hanging out of a bag, isn't it? Or something like that.
Yeah, I thought that's a bit of a trope. He's got like a rose in one side and then a baguette in the other. It's like, that old trope.
It's never a really messy burger that half of it's down his t-shirt either.
No.
It's always something that they can make simply at home with fresh ingredients.
Healthy.
Morning. Yes. And Charlize Theron's car has broken down.
Oh dear, what a shame.
Supposedly.
Chris, are you suspecting subterfuge even at this stage?
Yeah.
I thought it was so subtly plotted as well. Bollocks.
Okay.
So he goes over to start helping her because he can fix anything. And she calls him by his name. He's like,
she wants him to play a game.
He's like,
And then he says, what's wrong? Something's missing from the car. Forget what it is because we know nothing about cars. And she holds it up, whatever it is, and goes, I know.
Despite reviewing the series, which is about cars, we still know nothing about cars.
To be honest, I think
I haven't done any fun facts about
if
cars.
I'd gone on like a mechanics course just for this series, that would be overkill, wouldn't it? If by film 8 suddenly I could diagnose exactly what was wrong with that car and what it meant, listeners would be like, why have you gone and learned that? It don't fucking matter.
That's doing your research.
Anyway, I don't even know what colour this car is. I really haven't done my research.
While we're on that point, later on where he kind of fake fixes his car while trying to create diversion. Is it the same issue? Because he just pulls out this little sort of
that's true.
battery thing. So I'm wondering whether it's just as a little bit of a.
Oh, it might be. Yeah, that's true actually.
A little bit of you fell for the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I have to actually go back and check.
That's good script writing if that's the case. Brilliant. He's shown her. I mean, she could kill his child, but at least he's shown her. Right. Okay. So she's like. He goes to walk off. I don't work for anyone. Well, wait till you see this. And she holds out the phone. We don't know what he's looking at.
So 2 girls, 1 cup.
Can you imagine if it was that?
God.
Or
that'd be a different film.
Or it was just like Late Night with Seth Meyers and he watches it and goes, we got quite similar tastes. I don't mind working for you. There was no need to take me in with subterfuge. Your favourites list in YouTube would have done.
Yeah. Anyway, so.
Anyway.
Turns out it's not that though, Chris.
No.
It's not Late Night with.
No, it was, but then we don't see that. We see he looks all sort of wife. We show him with this. She goes like, "Oh shit! Yeah, no, sorry, wrong video." There you go.
Shit. Yeah. Don't ever watch 2 Girls, 1 Cup, folks.
No. Oh God, avoid.
Yeah, no, you'll never look at ice cream the same way.
I managed 8 seconds, or something like that. I don't mean literally because I didn't time it, but I did find it because there was so much fuss about this about 15 years ago. I found it, put it on,
is cursed.
And I think I'd switched it off within a dozen seconds or so because I was like, oh fuck that, oh fuck that.
Yeah. And then, you don't want to. I mean, I'm saying I think I cut off way too early. I was like, no, not for me.
Within seconds,
it will give me nightmares.
No. And even if you're sort of thinking, well,
how bad could it be?
How bad can it be?
It's cursed. I tell you now, it's cursed.
No, it's grim. It's really fucking grim. Basically,
Anyway.
if half a second of nudity is your thing before it gets appalling.
Let's move on from the cursed meme, shall we?
Anyway,
moving on swiftly.
so we're not fans. So final thoughts on Two Girls One Cup.
So this next we see Hobbs, don't we? He's like, I was like,
You preferred the first film in the series, One Girl, One Cup.
No girls, no cup. Thank you very much. I'll stick to my cup memes. Thank you.
Anyway, yeah. So Hobbs is there.
Becca's all about pussy.
What about a cheeseburger cat, actually?
Anyway, so Hobbs is there.
Anyway. Oh, no love for I can have cheeseburger? No. Oh, well. Anyway.
I just like the silences we keep throwing in. Anyway, so, right.
We're not on the same page.
So, he's now got to work for Cipher. And there are some little clues. When Hobbs calls him later, he calls Dom by his first name and Dom calls him Hobbs, but fair enough. He's working on something, and that will come into play later. It does come into how Statham is able to find them and stuff later on, but we'll come to that.
So he's already thinking ahead. Anyway.
But before that, Hobbs is giving a motivational speech.
Yes.
And it's the most telegraphed joke in cinematic history.
What? Because it's all close up.
Yeah, because it's in absurd close up of his face. He's clearly outside, and you go, he's talking to kids, isn't he? It's going to be kids. His daughter was in the last film, so his daughter plays fucking hockey or something. And when it cuts back, it's like football as we know it, soccer. And she's about to, I think she's going to de-age before next week, isn't she?
Oh, I can't remember.
She's about 12 or 13 here. I'm pretty sure she's younger next week. It's a different actress next week as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's kind of in between, isn't it, the two? So yeah, they probably make her look a bit younger.
Because she, I imagine that this actress would have like grown up to be 14, so unless they wanted that same.
They'd have been shooting her for this at about 14 or something. That's not how they want Hobbs' daughter to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I looked up this actress and she was born in 2004. So assuming they were filming this months ahead of its release, she'd have been about 12.
Yes.
And the actress next week, I don't think is the logical extension of that 14 or even 12, but we'll come to it. So someone approaches Hobbs while he's coaching his daughter's football team, and a bunch of women. In fact, there are more young women there than there are kids.
Apparently,
it's all the soccer mums.
Because Dwayne Johnson is fucking sexy and very oiled.
He is quite buff, yes.
Yeah, a Secret Service guy turns up off some description to talk to him about a stolen EMP. EMPs are very popular in these plots, aren't they, since GoldenEye?
Basically, I'm getting all kinds of GoldenEye vibes from this film, definitely.
But since GoldenEye, EMPs have turned up in action films all over the place.
Yeah, it's it really started a trend.
Well, I think it kind of makes sense in terms of the day and age where everything's digitalized, so it's kind of like, oh, well, let's just... It's quite
a trendy weapon to have.
It's quite simple to kind of like concept to grasp, like, well, just wipe out the electricity and make them more... do you know what I mean? So
they're helpless without it because we're so digital as a world now.
Yeah,
I get it. It's not necessarily bad. I just...
Yeah,
I don't think it's bad at all, but there's a slight hint of like, Christ, it's used a lot, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, not even in this series particularly, so it's not a flaw I'm aiming at this film. It's it's in a lot of films, that's all.
Yeah. I suppose it's like, but then again, like this film as well also goes for the nuclear thing as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. They found this EMP that was stolen, and it's in Berlin. And this film cost 250 million, but if they cut costs in Berlin, because that ain't Berlin, I don't think. It's just it's got a whiff of the backlot about it.
Yeah.
That sequence of
I've never actually been. I would like to go, but I've never actually been.
All right, back in a couple of weeks, folks. Speak to you later.
We're just gonna book off it.
We're off to Berlin.
Across the way. Is
good
there
luck at the moment.
Yeah, good luck.
Is there an air bridge that we can take?
Yeah. I've never been to Berlin, so I couldn't swear this isn't, but there's nothing landmarky enough about it to justify the spend of going there. And it's all at night, so I think it's it's a bit of a backlot thing.
Yeah.
Or disused land somewhere. And but before this, he's talked into going and doing that, and he's like, I'm more into my daughter's football team because they're about to win the league. Like we care. And he's talked into doing it. He calls Dom and says, because he said, you need a team. And he goes, I know just the people, those guys that steal DVD players. So he calls Dom, and Dom sees who it is, and Vin Diesel does some reflective acting where he's like, oh, this is bad news. I've got to get involved with this. And
he's trying to divide whatever complex number with another complex number.
212 by 13, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's there, like, he's doing this, like, deep thinking acting. And he isn't doing it too badly, actually. But it's telegraphing.
It's that.
He doesn't really want to talk to Hobbs, and we're about to find out why. He doesn't really want to work with his team at the moment, and we'll find out why.
Yeah, it's that, and plus with the look of, have I left the gas on?
Yeah. You can see similar acting from Stephen Fry in a bit of Fry and Laurie. Yeah. Oh, I've left the iron on. Yeah. I do wonder, now, again, I'm overthinking quite a dumb script, but has Cipher arranged this theft on the pure basis that she knows the American Secret Service will employ a Maori soccer coach who will only use a crew of criminals that are stealing DVD players? Is she like Blofeld level of planning from Spectre? Where you go, well...
Hold on.
He'll fart in 2011 and that will cause this 3 years later.
Butterfly, flap its wings.
I mean, they pretty much do, don't they? Because it was her fault. It was her behind. Luke Shaw, and it was she was the author of everyone's pain, apparently.
She's the author of all your pain.
All right, fair enough. Okay, at least there is a link, and they do address that link, so it's pushing it, but all right. So they head straight to Berlin. They're racing through this. I mean, for a reasonably long film, they just want this bit done. So they go to Berlin, which again, you can't think too hard about because A, it's not Berlin, and B, I don't know if they've turned up with that big wrecking ball through customs.
No.
What are you here for? Business or pleasure? Pleasure with the wrecking ball.
Yeah, wrecking ball GT.
That they've set up and computerized.
Yes, I wonder how they set up really, and how the people they're stealing from hadn't noticed.
Yeah, and also this incredible crew didn't notice them setting that up. But also, Roman, it's suddenly a big chase now because they've broken out with this thing and Roman has set off all the explosives, which is a big joke. Because the joke is he's only semi-competent. And it's like, they wouldn't be carrying someone semi-competent. But there you go. So they're now in a big...
To be fair, Roman, right? And did you take what, you used all of them? I was like, well, I was thinking, well, why would you give him a certain amount of explosives and expect him only to use 2/3 or something?
Oh god.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You used all of them? It's like, well,
we went in there to do a mission. You gave me a load of explosives. I used them, and then you went, why did you use the explosives? It's like, are we on a budget? What's going on? Yeah, but anyway, and the second phase of the plan, and again, it's to get them shit talking a bit for humour and a bit of action as well. But Dom introduces phase 2 without telling them, which is a massive fucking wrecking ball swinging straight at them, and only Tej knows.
Well, no, I think the idea was don't tell Roman because he backed out of he tried to back out of the going out of a plane last time round, so they kept.
They do shit talk him on that, don't they?
Yeah, right. Which is a bit unfair again, but yeah.
So keep as much, because they really looked after him when it started going wrong, didn't they?
Yeah.
He's off track. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. We're on the edge of quite a big mountain pass and fall, where he could be hurt. Okay. Right. Okay. So they get the EMP. They're about to break up, and Dom is totally into the smell the fart acting.
Yeah.
And they're going to break up and move. And Letty's like, "Are you good?"
Yeah. Something's not right because he's all very moody and quiet.
Yeah, and he drives off with and the lovely film trope of he drives off, Dwayne beside him, and Dwayne talks to him at normal speaking volume while they're pegging it down the road at like 100 miles an hour, and he's like, "First beer's on me," rather than "First beer's on me." What?
Yeah, it's always the trope in the helicopter, isn't it? Where like, they talk normally as if they're like in a quiet room somewhere, but the reality is you cannot hear anything.
They did it in the Avengers films, particularly like Age of Ultron, where she's like always picking up on after you guys, and she's in a busy city on a loud motorbike.
Yeah.
The trouble is though, when they try to do it realistically, it doesn't work either because he had lots of guts. Doesn't work.
Yeah. No.
Because he's bellowing it. But yeah, I just noticed it. Then Dom rams him off the road without damaging his own car, which is quite impressive. So Dwayne's van flips multiple times. He's holding the EMP. Dom goes and steals it and runs off. And he tells the rest of the crew, Dominic Toretto has gone rogue.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun.
And that's it. So he goes off with Cipher.
Yeah.
Then what? Oh, Hobbs is arrested.
Yes, because obviously it was a Black Ops. So it was like Mission Impossible. Like if you get caught, captured.
It's about.
Yeah.
Although that's never made quite clear, you have to infer that. It's quite easy to infer, by the way. But the point I'm making is it looks government sponsored at the start. But anyway.
Well, yeah, I think they do.
Well, it is.
They do tell them we're gonna have to go in So if you get caught, then it's
all right. You need a crew. Oh yeah, he did go and get the best.
So he used obviously non-military, non-government. So
Fair
it
enough.
would kind of make sense. But where are we up to? So
Hobbs, you walk towards prison, and Mr. Nobody and the guy we will come to know as Little Nobody sort of accost him outside.
Yeah.
Just as he's about to go in, he's in leg irons and all that kind of shit. And again, every sort of scene is played for comedy. Every scene. Because it starts with Scott Eastwood's character, Little Nobody, just telling him the plan, but he front loads it with you're going to be a criminal and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. And first Hobbs is not interested because he's like, no, I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to go through the courts and make my case and get out, the proper way. And then Little Mo uses his kid as a threat, and then he just picks him up and slams him against the wall. Well, Kurt Russell just says, "Ooh,
got to work on your technique."
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's basically come work for us. You will technically be a criminal, but work for us, and we'll see what we can do.
Mm.
So now they've got to go. So they're all sort of taken. Again, played for humour, they're all taken to some base where they're sat around a table, and of course Scott Eastwood has put them all in handcuffs, which is not what he was asking for. He just wanted the team brought together. And this is the pointer scene. This is where we get all the sort of exposition, isn't it? About who Cipher is and all the rest of it. And how dangerous this crew is, because all of them except Roman are on the top 10 most wanted.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Yeah, so he goes to prison, meets Shaw, and then we sort of see Dom's on a plane with Cipher, and that's where we get the
reveal.
Yeah, I don't think we get the reveal just yet, but we just basically sort of get obviously there's a bit of tension. There's something that we do not know.
Okay.
And I think she just questions Dom's are you still with it? Are you you're not sort of take this too personally? You need to sort of that kind of thing.
Okay. Keeping him in line.
Yeah. So next we have more Hobbs and Shaw, and then they have a breakout.
Yeah, it keeps cutting back to the prison. He doesn't want to. it's now Plan B to get him out, which is Mr. Nobody's choice, which is to basically hack it and open all the cells and have him start a riot and have him get out like that.
He sort of refuses. He's like, I'll get out my own way, but they're kind of like determined to bust him out. But I think like the one-upmanship kind of like all kind of brinkmanship even between the two. I think it's quite funny how they're trying to basically
just whip out their knobs.
Well, why don't they just kiss?
And then they make love. I mean, he's even ripping stuff off the wall to show how strong he is and stuff.
He's so buff.
Yeah,
it's quite funny. It's kind of like quite a comedic moment. So.
And the debut of the word wanker in the series. I was in Oklahoma a few years ago. I might have gone into Texas by. I was driving along the road, and a car passed me that had the number plate wanker.
Really?
And I had to take a photo. It's somewhere back in my face.
Did you like?
I was with the person I was with. He was American, so she was like, "What's that then?" I said, "It's the same as jerking off," and she was like, "And they forgot that as their like license plate." I'm like, "Yeah."
That might be their name.
Said,
you don't
there
know.
must be a story behind what they're called, like Arnold Wanker.
Well, I used to work in financial services, and we had quite a few big German IFAs as some of our clients, and we'd regularly have names like spelled W-A-N-K-E-R and W-A-N-K, and obviously they're pronounced a bit differently than how we do over here. But you'd be surprised how common it would be. we were like, what? This is the guy's name?
Yeah. I wouldn't. I feel like I'm recycling a joke from How to Be a Complete Bastard, the book by Adrian Edmondson, because I'm pretty sure there was a section in that book called Bastard Things to Do to Yourself. And one of them was change your name to Arnold Wanker and try to get extended credit.
Excuse me, what's your name?
And when you said financial services, I'm thinking, trying to imagine like ringing a mortgage centre or a loan centre and trying to talk them into giving you a loan and your surname's Wanker. But anyway. So
P.I. Staker, yeah.
P.I. Staker, that's
This is going into Hot Fuzz territory with all our fake names.
Yeah. What's rude about a body? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, or Amanda Hug and Kiss. That's it.
All I want is Amanda Hug and Kiss. Why can't I find Amanda Hug and Kiss?
Which is the one where the joke goes wrong? In The Simpsons, I mean.
Oh,
yeah, I'm just trying to think. There is one, isn't it?
I'm sorry, sir, the joke's gone wrong. Okay, young man. All right, doesn't matter. Anyway. So
yeah, there is one like that. I can't think what it is. Never mind, it'll come to me.
So the point is scene of them explaining who she is, what they're trying to do. That she stole this device. I don't think, and she's got the God's Eye, which they think they can.
Got the golden eye.
Hack. Yeah, because Roman says, "Well, I know, a great idea." And everyone goes, "Oh God, Roman's going to make an idea. Why don't you use God's Eye?" And makes that the obvious choice, which makes logical sense. And apparently that she's kind of hacked a way to sort of hide where she is.
But it's okay because Jason Statham is there.
No, this is Raj. What am I about? Tej, sorry. Tej and Ramsey, they're all like being all geeky out.
You were quite close to saying Reg and Tamsy. That's what it is.
Yeah, that was it.
Raj and Tamsy. All right.
So they figure out like if we do some techno babble and type on a keyboard.
They get really excited about each other's ideas as well. I love that. And then we can yeah.
But it is a little bit like that.
But you know what? The thing that actually really sells it is actually Kurt Russell's just narrating things like, "Oh, you watch this kind of thing," or like, this kind of, "I told you they were good," or
I told you they were the best of the best of the best of the best.
The best of the best.
Yeah.
The honest thing is at the end where like you see like Shaw go to Toretto and like he stops like little nobody, goes like, "Oh no, this could be interesting."
Yeah.
It's just like, who talks that way?
I know. But eventually,
but Kurt Russell finds a way to do it. So
yeah, but eventually, Shaw hacks in himself, doesn't he? And after all of this, they're about 10 feet away. It's just fucking brilliant.
Yeah, so they find out and they go like, "Oh, hang on, we've landed at this location," and nobody goes, "That's interesting because that's here," and then
explosion.
Yeah, explosion. Cipher and Dom kind of bust out and they take the god's eye, don't they?
Yes.
And then Cipher kisses Dom in front of Letty, which. Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you reckon she touched his cock?
Probably.
That's in like the porno version of this film.
Yeah, I don't mean got it out did anything, just enough to really piss Letty off. Like, ooh. Get him a little bit hard, and then he sort of like crouches and.
I was just gone full on blowjobs, quite frankly, but. but I'm sure
sound effects by Becca Andrews.
Yeah,
it's late. I mean,
you might be pushed for time, but
fair enough, right? Whatever. So they get out of there, and it's like shit. So what then?
Yeah, Letty's like, "Oh, that wasn't Dom," and then Shaw and Ramsey kind of find a way to sort of to track where they were going or figure it out somehow using techno stuff. And I think next time we find out that Dom actually has a kid. This way it's revealed.
Right, again, don't think too hard because they got together in Rio when she had fairly long hair. At the time, Mia was pregnant with whatever their kid's called, Jack, who we might see later on, I suppose, but not in this film and not in this film. So she then has that baby. In the next film, Jack is, 3, maybe? Difficult to tell, but he's not a baby anymore. She is not showing at all, and she has short hair. By the time of this film, she's had the baby and grown her hair long as well. I'm utterly fucking confused.
There's been a bit of a leap there, haven't you? You kind of have to think, you have to sort of suspend your disbelief.
You just got to suspend your disbelief and say you got her pregnant
so
when
it's
they
fine.
were together in like
a few years, time has passed.
Dominican Republic or wherever it was. And that's it. So she had a baby who I wonder what they'll call this baby. Because it's dropped fairly early. It's dropped fairly early in conversation that I always thought his father should name him. I gave him his middle name, but a boy should be named by his father. And I'm thinking, Christ, this is going to be syrupy as bollocks at the end, isn't it? And it's so obviously going to be Brian.
Yeah, but it's cute, and the little one is very sweet to look at.
She sells it. Well, in fact, they both sell it. They both sell this. It's like, okay.
Seashells by the seashore.
We've had weeks of family, with a rather pointed scene at the start of the film about children, and I can just about buy that Dom would do the right thing here.
I mean, in films to come, there's probably going to be a leap 10 years into the future where Brian's growing up, or he's a teen, and he kind of gets into street racing, or goes down that path. So you can kind of see it all being laid out, can't you?
Possibly, yeah.
That's just what I imagine. It probably won't happen, but
I don't know. I mean, they can make this a generational drama over time, or the eventual reboot down the line, or continuation that like Brian and Jack become bestest ever pals and make love.
or one's on one side, one's on the other.
Yeah, could be. His middle name is Marcos. That's all we know. And Cipher sends Dom to basically intercept the Russian defense minister because he's got the nuclear codes on him.
Yeah.
Why you'd be carrying that through the middle of New York, I'm not sure. Is there any logic in that as an idea? Firstly, why would it be the defense minister? I mean, if you go the analogy of the US government, whether this scares us or pleases us, Trump has the codes. I don't imagine random members of his cabinet do. And I'm sure if they went on some diplomatic mission to Moscow or whatever, they wouldn't be carrying them around in the car with them.
Well,
you never know.
Yeah, regardless of what system it's, you have like a designated person responsible for that, wouldn't you? And that would be it. But you want to have them in a secure location. You wouldn't have them going around the globe, but I don't know.
There you go. Anyway, no, I mean, again, like everything in this series, you've just got to let it go. It's not that big a problem, but as the series is going on, we're encountering more of these things that we have to go, is that a problem? No, I'm still enjoying it. Like, 5 seemed, by the time, when we were at 5, all of this had a bit more internal logic than it now does. That's all. Still enjoying it, but it's really pushing the boundaries each week of us running into stuff and going, oh, I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I like this sequence. This is probably the best action sequence of the film. Would we agree?
Yeah, pretty much, I think.
I think so, yeah.
It's definitely from a visual aspect as well, because you see all the cars kind of like zooming along together.
I think that's a really good effect when they all sort of converge into the convoy, I guess.
And a camera on the sort of pitons.
Yeah, that's really clever, actually. Yeah, that scene's kind of literally very, very tense. I think the big stunt at the end, I think, is really effectively done. But I think in terms of visuals, this kind of has more impact. That the stunt in New York as well, and the city itself looks good. I think if it's done well, it can be. Sorry to keep banging on, but it can be like a character in the film, and I really do feel that happens in this section.
I think it's half the reason the scene stands out, because it's in a clearly different environment and quite an iconic one.
It was the same with London in previous films as well. Yeah,
but without them doing what filmmakers, particularly American filmmakers, do when they come to London and immediately take photos of the Gherkin and things like that, and Tower Bridge and the Shard, and they haven't gone
and pretend that they're all in the 5 minutes walk of each other.
Well, yeah, but not only that, this is not shot. Here are the greatest hits of New York. We get a couple of establishing shots here and there, but it ain't. Look, the Big Apple, folks.
No, you've got the city, you've got the business district, and you've got the iconic yellow taxis as well. You instantly know where you are, and it looks stylish as well, and it's done in a really mature way.
And it's basically breaking into sort of the guidance systems in all these cars. I don't know how realistic this is as an idea. I don't know if you could remotely drive cars that aren't self-driving cars yet, if you know what
I don't know.
But that's the idea. All of these cars could be hacked into because they've got computers in them and be remotely deployed. So you've got people jumping out of cars because they've started losing control.
Moving on their own. I don't know.
People getting back to their car where it's parked and it backing away from them.
And it's not there. Yeah.
And all of this is to force the Russian minister's limo down a certain alley where it's blocked in, and Dom can sort of cut his way in and demand the codes. And I like this.
Yeah, so basically sort of sticks a flare in the fuel tank, doesn't he? Rather than trying to shoot his way in, because it's all armoured and bulletproof.
Yeah.
And so
he's now got the nuclear codes. As he drives off, he's like,
"Give me the codes, Natalia."
Yeah, and I
think I know where my crew's at.
Yeah. So before this, it's Dom was stalled and had a sneaky little chat with Helen Mirren. So they kind of
Oh yeah, we ought to describe this sequence. What happens then? This is before the major bits of action, really. Yeah. She has access to all of the cameras, the God's Eye that was set up in the last film. So she can access any view of him. If he blocks one camera, there'll be something else. I guess it's a little bit like The Dark Knight, but The Dark Knight used camera phones and stuff.
Yeah.
And he gets down an alley and pretends there's something wrong with the car, radios in, lifts the hood, which blocks the view of him, but she can see him from through a crack into the alley. But she says, "You've got 5 minutes or whatever." He says, "Well, unless you want the engine to blow, you have to let me do this." But the view she can see him at gets blocked by a van. And I think it's pretty clear to most people who've ever seen a film that van is complicit with whatever he wants to do, and there's actually nothing wrong with his car.
Yeah.
But he heads off to see Helen Mirren. What happens in this sequence? What does he get from her? We don't know at this stage.
Yeah, we don't know. Obviously, there's a little bit of let's make a deal, something that I can give you. It's why should I help you? I'm sipping on my tea and I'm fucking thirsty. Yeah,
yeah, she's got a china cup, doesn't she? Like a teapot.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't really know, because it kind of cuts back to Cipher trying to get an image, and then when the van finally moves, you see Dom just closing the hood and showing what was wrong and saying. So we don't know as just yet, because it will be revealed in the cutscene. Other than that, we have Hobbs and Shaw having a little bit of bitch talk, but they are kind of like slowly getting to like each other because they go through his record saying like, oh, something doesn't add up here because you achieved like your honours record or whatever.
Sure, he was like special ops and stuff.
Yeah,
and he was a star pupil and so on.
It's like, so how do you become like a criminal? It's like, oh, I don't know. You get set up. Sound familiar? Kind of thing.
That's quality writing. How did you become a criminal? Don't know.
Got into it.
Don't know. I haven't thought about that.
So, but you just go back to like last film where he basically sort of killed a load of policemen in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, deep down he's actually a really good guy. Just
bloody nice bloke. We're about to find out how bloody nice he is. Right, so he gets the nuclear football, as they call it, and they basically he's cornered by his crew. They all shoot pitons into his car, and he's basically trapped.
Yeah.
And basically a ton of manoeuvring to try and like manipulate the cars that have trapped him.
Yeah. So
dragging them and getting them to crash, getting them to smack together, all that sort of thing. It's quite well done.
Yeah, obviously, all the cars are totaled. So Dom runs with the football. Shaw chases after him, and then Dom pulls a gun on him.
From Letty's perspective, we see him shoot Shaw, which again is a bit of a clue something's not quite as it seems, because we're just watching it from somebody else's perspective. It's got that kind of slight, Rashomon kind of feel to it. That thing where you just see things from a slightly different perspective. You're not quite sure if what you're seeing is correct.
Bit of callback to the last film. You thought this was a street fight, and
yeah, and then Letty ends up nabbing it, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And she's like, "You won't shoot me." And then Game of Thrones turns up.
Yeah.
He would make quite an effective Ghost of Christmas Present.
He would actually. A big ginger beard.
Yeah. The Edward Woodward of his generation.
A great big bushy beard.
It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
Great big bushy beard.
That's a second Hot Fuzz reference and Edward Woodward.
I can't wait till we do the series. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay,
we can legitimately go great big bushy beard.
Yeah, we'll do Edgar Wright at some point. Well, his films anyway.
I think I might have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I planning to do Edgar Wright. Edward Woodward was the Ghost of Christmas Present in the George C. Scott version of the film. So yeah, that's where that link comes from. So yeah, he holds a gun to Letty's head, and Dom holds a gun to his head.
Yeah. I kind of forget how this kind of resolves, but basically resolves with like both him and Ghost of Christmas Past.
They've taken it now.
Present,
they've taken it off Letty, and they go back to the the plane or whatever.
And and so this is where Cipher kind of punishes Dom for kind of like not really. I mean, he still got the job done, but just kind of like, oh well, just to remind you.
She could see all this on the cameras, and that is telegraphed at the. We're reminded of that at the end of the scene because we get a point of view of the camera looking down at him after. She basically says, "You're not fully on side. You would have let Letty go." And to punish him, she shoots Elena, or she has Elena shot,
which is probably the most villainous bit. She's like,
it's really heartbreaking.
Well, it's unnecessary. Elena's tied up anyway, and not in the hey, let fun, let's experiment way. And she's holding his baby, so there's a hint of threat to that. What we did see the first time he met, he held up that iconic chain and held it up for her as a little sort of family thing. So that's there as well. That'll become important in a bit.
Yeah, that's key.
So,
Pay attention.
Elena is now dead, and Dom is, the only parent left for young unnamed
baby Toretto.
Oh yeah, unnamed Marcus.
Brian.
So now they track Dom to Russia.
Yes.
And the EMP is going to be used to disable sort of security at a base and a nuclear submarine, so it can be hijacked. And is it ever said explicitly what she wants with it?
I think it's like, start a nuclear war or something like that, just to kind
of... That's implicit. I'm just wondering if it's ever said per se.
I think she says it's something to do with that accountability, like being able to hold governments to account and saying, you bastards, things like that.
Go, you bastards.
You bastard. But no, she does this, launches into this like villainous monologue about accountability. So apart from that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like hijack it to attempt to use it as arsenal to trigger a nuclear war. So I think
at least hold governments to ransom.
Yeah.
So she might use it to say, I demand you have 100,000 COVID tests a day by the end of April. She might have used it for good. All right, so the team now have to go to Russia to stop her sort of getting out in the water and, get out into open waters. And at the same time, Shaw and Owen team up.
Yes, because this is all happening like without...
as we like to call them, Shaw and Shaw.
Yeah, Shaw and Shaw.
Right, this is the mother sort of... Yeah. We find out later, that it was all staged. He wasn't really killed by Dom.
No.
And he's driven away in an ambulance driven by the two guys from the first film. And the fifth. No, they were in the fifth film, weren't they?
Yeah.
And...
the guys were like the policeman picking up Shaw. And
and they're basically to sort of sneak onto the plane, and they won't be being looked for because they're thought to be dead. Well, one in hospital, one dead. Although we don't know how many years this is on now. Owen might have got out of hospital fucking years ago, who knows? Yeah. And it's to get Dom's son out. And they've got Dom's son because Dom put a tracker in that necklace, and that was what he was working on at the start of the film when Hobbs called him. So it does hang together better than I'm giving it credit for, actually.
That's good. So Dom's working on a way to get out. Meanwhile, our team are trying to sort of interrupt. So you got a lot of hackery stuff going on where they're doing films where rather obviously they can't sort of like show it. They have to talk the way through it. So they go like, "Oh, I'm gonna block you. Oh, damn, no, they're good, but not as good as me. Oh no, I can't stop this. Okay, well," and then just like all this kind of like techno mumbo jumbo. They just sort of like talk their way through like the action rather than while tapping on the keyboard. I mean, I don't know how it actually works. I don't know if that actually does involve like a lot of tapping.
Yeah, you imagine you get there's no Wi-Fi signal at all. You're just like, all right, let's go.
Like, signal a bit weak.
And they really talk up like they do talk up saving the world, don't they? It's just I just think like I still sometimes can't believe the series is here. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Where we are now, it's like even by film 5, where the modern series was born, they were just robbing a fucking bank.
Yeah.
Now it's let's go save the world. And little nobody's now on side. There are no rules.
Yes. Because I think before that we had like you sort of rule 1, know your audience. Rule 2, I forgot what rule 2 was. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just shit dialogue. It's fine. But the rule 3 was there's no rules. So Scott Eastwood's on board now for his audition for Fast 9, which is what this is. Having
he really looks like his dad.
Well, he does look like Clint Eastwood.
He really does. I couldn't get over it. But, I was like, hold on a minute.
Put him roughly in the Paul Walker role and see how he does. That's what this is.
Yeah, that's kind of what he's doing. I just couldn't get over it. I was like, oh my god. Obviously, he is Clint Eastwood's son, but I was like, he really looks like his dad.
He really does.
Anyway.
Apparently, I was reading his Wikipedia page earlier. He went to like a fancy dress party as the man with no name once.
Oh.
And those made like the photos because it was eerie.
Yeah, no, I'm sure definitely. And that's interesting, seeing as he's essentially, we don't know his name, he's just called Mr. Little Nobody.
I mean, and
that's quite interesting that he's playing a no-name character here.
If you hold pictures of Clint up to photos of him, you can tell them apart.
Obviously,
but they look.
I'm a bit worrying if he didn't look like his parents,
Yeah, they look very alike though.
Yeah, no, very cool.
And he's been in a couple of Clint Eastwood films as well under his original name, because he used his mum's maiden name to start with. Which kind of makes a sense, see if you can make a little bit of your own way, and once you've got a foot in, then, well, I am an Eastwood. Nothing wrong with using your family name. I know it will always bring up accusations of nepotism, but what can you do? If it's your name, it's your name, and you're proud to use it and stuff. This action sequence kind of loses me. I don't know if you guys want to talk me through it, but it kind of loses me. It's just a load of bollocks on ice.
I know, I kind of liked it. I mean, at first you had like sort of like the breaking into the base and things like that, and the hacking stuff. So once they finally, I mean, they get a chip which sort of disables like the nuclear water, but she still has like control of submarine. So the submarine kind of goes, and they're basically being chased by a submarine and a load of military trucks, essentially.
Right.
And while that's happening, Dom is basically sort of made to watch while Ghost of Christmas Present is gonna sort of snipe the team, basically.
Right. And we keep cutting to Jason Statham fighting everybody on board a plane, and occasionally popping back to the baby to reassure him. And that's good fun.
Yeah. It just shows how great Jason Statham is, because it's like the way he's like talking to the baby is just like, it's hilarious while doing the action stuff, because which he can do in his sleep, because he's just a natural talent for that sort of stuff.
But occasionally we just see it from the baby's perspective, where he just disappears out of shot, few sort of sound effects of punches and kicks, and then he's back again.
Yeah.
And he's basically put headphones with like kiddie music on for the kid. So this is a good scene. It's an inventive scene, and what a bloody nice bloke Deckard Shaw is.
Dear.
Yeah.
Even loves his mum,
Yeah. Didn't he kill Han though?
I think Han's still alive, with no evidence whatsoever. Well, I've got evidence now, but I wouldn't have had it at this point. But at this point, when they're writing the film, it's like, he killed Han. Even if you retcon it that Han survived, we're not going to know that for like at least 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think they'd already announced Hobbs and Shaw, so it was pretty quickly clear that we weren't getting a film till 2020. Obviously, events have overtaken that. So if the payoff is 3 years away, that doesn't work as storytelling, So at this point, the guy who killed Han, but he's nice, really.
He's a ruddy, nice bloke.
Blew up Dom's house, which he went through like hell to try and get back. Yeah, so all right, whatever.
Killed a load of police.
Yeah.
Destroyed a hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloody nice guy.
Yeah. So Dom eventually sort of breaks from the guy to protect his crew, and kills him, I think. And then eventually it just becomes he's being watched. There's a camera on board his car. He's being watched by Charlize, but Dom knows Shaw has already sort of taken steps. The Shaw brothers, not those Shaw brothers, are taking steps to protect his child. And he made a comment to her earlier about, if you put your foot on a tiger's neck, you have to keep it there. And the payoff line is you just took your foot off the tiger's neck. So Dom is now...
Which is a good analogy in a way.
It is. No, it's fine. I laugh at the dialogue in this, but it works. She fires a heat-seeking missile at him. Now, she hasn't seen many films, has she? Heat-seeking missiles have a long history of going very wrong.
Yes. But it's a way to Dom to do a ridiculous death-defying stunt, where he crashes.
And show his amazing driving skills once again.
Because it's happened in the 6th film where he drives out and then crashes the car. It happens in the 7th film where he kind of drives out the parking lot and crashes his car. And happens this time where he sort of clips a submarine. And there's a big explosion, and the team are all there to cover him, to act as a blockade against all the fire.
She escapes. She's on the plane. All this, not the submarine. She jumps off the plane because she's got the only parachute. Statham manages to save the baby from falling out. I don't know what they do then. I'm presuming he flies and lands the plane. Because he can probably do that as well. Because he can computer hack and do everything. Probably does the barbecue they have later as well. So, yeah, basically she's escaped, ready for the next film. Dom's admitted to Letty that wasn't me. And
by the way, here's a kid I had with another woman.
Here's a kid I had with another woman. When you were talking about babies earlier. This one will do, won't it? Don't want your own, surely. They end up meeting on a sort of penthouse apartment, all of them. Statham's turns up with the baby to hand it back, and they all drink Corona beer and bloody nice blokes. Anything else? Oh, let me introduce you to my son. He's called... What do you think this is going to be? Well, we've already spoiled it. Big surprise.
Spoiler alert.
They could have done like the Avengers Age of Ultron, where they kind of like, he's called, and just like credits.
Yeah.
He's called drum roll. Oh.
And like Hobbs and Shaw look at each other with a bit of respect. So yeah. That will all be rewritten next week. Oh, and Hobbs is offered his job back. And he's like, no, because I'm going to spend some time with my daughter.
Family man.
Yeah. And they're all family. And then they sit down for a bit of food and shit like that. And that's that.
And that's it till we see Toretto and co.
That's it for the main series until next year, we hope. Hopefully by then Fast 9, which has been shot, will come out. Fast 10 will be the year afterwards. We'll be here to cover it. But that's it for the main series. We do have one more to go, which we'll come to in a bit, and we have mentioned through this show. Final thoughts on this. I think it is a step down. I think it's entertaining enough. There's not much wrong with it. The best action sequence halfway through. The final action sequence is not as good for me. It's decent. It's a decent entry in the series. If I were to rank it, it's probably in the middle somewhere. I think the last 3 weeks have all been better than this. It's a bit of a wash with 4, to be honest, I think. I'd almost have to watch 4 again because it's changed in tone so much since then. But that was when it started to become the series it was. And it had a bit of heart and stuff like that. It's probably better than the first 3 entries in the series. So, yeah, it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's better than what we're going to get next week, but I'm willing to challenge that with an open mind. It's fine, but it is one big overblown soap opera now full of people who, whatever they do, will never get hurt and are bloody nice blokes.
Yeah, I mean, I still, had a good time with it. It's probably not the high point in the series. I think it's amazing that a series that's been running this long is still going in its current form for as long as it has done. Action's fine, stunts are fine. The big kind of like a major big stunt at the end is probably not the main spectacle. I'd say that happens during the New York sequence, definitely for sure. Comedy wise, for me, it is certainly one of the funniest films in the series. I love the kind of the back and forth between The Rock and Stath, which is very cool. I was a little bit let down with Charlize Theron. I mean, she's definitely a very menacing villain, definitely, and also a female villain as well. Considering we still know very little about her, and she does remain at large at the end of the film, but she's very, very pared back, very, very sort of deliberate. But yeah, again, as we mentioned earlier, that may just be like a choice, and we may see her dialed up again next time. You never know. 3 out of 5. But no, I did enjoy my time with this film. And as I say, it's probably not the best in the series, but it's still going, still plugging away, and certainly one of the high points.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd go with pretty much what everyone else has said. Really, I mean, obviously I enjoyed it a lot more, but I think the same with any of these films is it's whether you go with it or not, whether it plays to your strengths or not, whether it's if you like your big spectacle action films with where you just switch your brain off, it plays. It depends what if that's your taste or not, and obviously that's more my taste. It's more my wheelhouse anyway, so I get more out of it. But yeah, no, it's solid entry. I had a good time with it. I'm looking forward to Fast 9 when it comes out, because I forgot his name now. Is it Justin Lin? Yeah, Justin Lin. Justin Lin's back.
Lin's back, yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
And
to see
it's
what
got
they
a
do.
new writer as well. It's got a new writer. Without me looking, I can't remember who it is now. But it's got this is kind of due some new blood, because it's been Chris Morgan writing these for fucking years by this.
Yeah, he's been doing it for ages.
So we've got the best director for this series, the most appropriate director, the most successful director in my I say my view. It depends. The reason I say my view is on pure box office, James Wan is the most successful because of Fast 7. But he made the series what it was, Justin Lin, but it probably needs some new blood on the writing side. So the signs are pretty good for that, definitely. For posterity, just because one day I'll listen back to this podcast and wonder what the fuck I'm talking about. When we're finished here tonight, both of you go to Twitter and have a look at why Tony the Tiger is trending. Honestly, we are through the fucking looking glass.
What?
That MP that got like fucking deselected, it's to do with her. It is fucking mental. Anyway, but I know.
Okay.
Is it because she's great?
She's not.
She's not great.
She's not great, and her logic here is fucking
Cocoa
mental.
Pops is trending.
Yeah, no, it's all the same topic. I promise you. I'll say it right. This woman, Fiona Onasanya, has written to Kellogg's through a tweet.
Oh, I see.
To complain about basically racial stereotyping in cereals. And if you
thought a bit silly now, isn't it?
Well, certainly compared to you, I'm reasonably PC and I'm quite open-minded about those sorts of things, and I defend it quite happily. I tend to stay off the topic because what's the fucking point? I can just be making fart jokes, and people who vote a different way from me can enjoy what I do. But this is mental if you read the thread. Honestly, it is fucking mental. Even if there was a semi-logic in what she was saying, the replies to it absolutely undercut and ruin her logic immediately.
Cheeky.
Right, anyway.
So what's her name? Is it?
Well, just go to trending. You'll see Tony the Tiger. Click on that. You'll find it.
Or Cocoa Pops.
Or Cocoa Pops. Yeah. Christ almighty.
Living in clown world.
There are variants of this where she might have a point she doesn't hear. But anyway. Right.
Somebody makes a point. As an Irishman, I'm offended by Lucky Charms.
Well, I'll keep them in my trousers then.
And somebody else says Elf Live.
I won't show you my Lucky Charms if you feel that way about it.
It's Austin Powers again, isn't it? I'll show you my Lucky Charms. Dear, oh dear.
If you're Irish and want to see my Lucky Charms, write to us.
Yeah, no.
gmail.com.
You know, no offence intended.
No offence intended. I've just offered to show me bits.
Charms.
It won't offend. People will have to ask. Anyway, if I knew anything about this film, it's just gone out my head, Chris.
That's crazy. That is just crazy.
Yeah. Has it gone out your head too?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at one of the guys I follow. I think you follow him too, Marcus Wilcott. He's kind of replied with Cocoa Rice Krispies, and like obviously you got like and white chocolate Cocoa Pops, just with a question mark.
I know. There are white chocolate. He politically is way closer to you than me.
Yeah,
but like sometimes he posts and you go, I can't fucking fault the logic of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah. This is. I thought I was ready to learn about this film, and now like I'm not. I don't know if I know anything. I've been confused by the Kellogg's race war.
Who'd have thought it was such a such a highly charged topic?
A hot button issue for a deselected MP. You got to get smarter than this if you ever want to win a fucking election, guys. Right.
Here it is. Sorry, I went down that rabbit hole.
Remember where the rest of the public live. You know.
Does it not just?
EastEnders is trending. Is that because of us?
Does it not just?
EastEnders is trending. We mentioned it once on a show we haven't even released and is not broadcast live. That's quite incredible if people have just divided. You know, I just saw Twitter earlier to expect us to talk about recording tonight. But
quick!
EastEnders. Let's talk about that on Twitter so it trends.
No.
Becca, teach us some shit. We can't
Obviously,
go down.
I know that
We've gone too far down our this to go back to our usual infomercial bollocks. So, what facts have you got to teach us?
Well, I have noticed that Salisbury poisoning drama is trending, unfortunately. So.
Well, he probably poisoned a white man with a black poison.
No comment on that one. So. I'll be lived through it.
Right.
Anyway, yes, fun fact time. Fun fact number 1. At the time, this was Universal's most ambitious global release, apart from in Japan, very oddly. And anyway, it achieved the biggest global opening in history. In history. Oh dear, it's late, people. I'm tired. So basically, it's Universal's most ambitious global release and achieved the biggest global opening in history until the Avengers Infinity War film came along the following year. And even director F. Gary Gray broke his own record with this film, scoring his best opening since his 2015 release, Straight Outta Compton, as we mentioned earlier in the show. And also, whilst we're on the box office facts, this film proved to be Universal's highest-grossing live-action movie. So, just not just discounting any sort of comic book hero movies, just plain live-action drama since Jurassic World in 2015. Fun fact number 2, this is the first Fast and Furious movie to star 2 Oscar winners, Charlize Theron and Dame Helen Mirren. Fun fact number 3, the film opens in Havana, Cuba. Also, we touched on this earlier on the show as well during our massive off-tangent discussion about world politics. So obviously in July 2015, US-Cuban relations were restored to basically the best they'd been since the Cold War in 1961. And the process obviously was started by Obama in 2014, dubbed the Cuban Thaw. And although a lot of
Cuban
the
Thaw?
policies... Yeah, that's what it was called.
Is that like Chris Hemsworth, but he's smoking a cigar and a bit swarthy?
Literally. Thaw. I need to find it somewhere. I'm going to raise that story about my friend creating this cartoon about Thor, and I think it's really cleverly done. I'll see if I can dig it out. Obviously this process was started by Obama in 2014, and obviously now, as we mentioned, a lot of it's all been undone. But the opening of this film can be definitely seen in that context of US-Cuban relations. After the race, they kind of earn each other's mutual respect. Fun fact number 4, Iceland stand in for Russia for the 3rd time with this film, obviously after Review to Kill and Tomb Raider in 2001. And apparently it features the biggest explosion to be filmed there in that location.
Wouldn't it have been B-jams back then?
Gone, it's all gone.
Sorry, go on. That was a really lazy joke, but there you go.
That was a Tracy Ullman. That was a Tracy Ullman joke.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think it might be a Tracy Ullman joke. But yeah, fun fact number 5.
You steal from the best, then, eh?
So yeah, my final fun fact is that Paul Walker's character was known for driving Japanese imports, Subaru, etc., etc. And something which little nobody, Scott Eastwood. I called him Chris Eastwood earlier by mistake. I was called Scott. Sorry, I've got it on the brain. Scott Eastwood's character does drive Japanese cars in this film, so it's a little bit of a tribute to Brian.
Oh, is it?
And since apparently they were really good friends in real life, so I think that was
I didn't know that either.
Nods.
He'd have been quite young. I mean, Scott Eastwood's only 34 now.
Yeah, he's same age as us really, so he's not very old.
Yeah, well, he'll be the incumbent Batman next year.
Yeah, he's going to be the next Batman.
Well, Robert Pattinson, given that
he is. Sorry, I didn't, obviously.
Given that he started filming it already.
He's actually will be Batman.
Yeah.
But we've all got our Batman, so.
Yeah, okay. Is that
that was my 5 fun facts. Sadly, that's all I got.
No, that's all right. That's cool. I would say it's fun, but I'm still confused and distracted by Cocoa Pops.
I've got the urge to buy some Cocoa Pops tomorrow.
That's ridiculous.
But not to own the libs. It's just been put in your mind. That's all.
I was like, oh, that's quite nice. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
A tasty breakfast.
A tasty breakfast, advertised by a symbol of oppression. As for social media, you can find me at the. I can't stop laughing at this. It's fucking mental.
I don't. Right. Bloody hell! Why? Just.
I mean, it is coming to the point where like brass eye became reality, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it is pretty much.
Swing that way.
We're there pretty much. Brass eye, Black Mirror, all of that.
Oh, right. Anyway, you can find me at the Pastor Kid 1976 on Twitter.
You can find me eating a bowl of Cocoa Pops on Twitter.
By Kellogg's.
I mean, to be honest, I'll happily go to like Aldi or Lidl's brand. I'm not snobby. But
only if there's a social worker on the box. Sorry.
You can find me at Cinemshots on Twitter. You can also find all the old episodes on cinemshots.co.uk.
You can find us on Twitter at Expected Talk, also under the same name on Facebook and YouTube. You can find us all on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, basically anywhere you can get your podcast from, whichever platform you decide to view us on. Don't forget to rate us, review us, to like us, and share us across social media. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're nearly done with this series. Next week, one of us is going to have to pick a Bond commentary, and I don't know which one it is. So, we'll talk offline about Bond films and stuff, but there's one left in this series, which is a spin-off, which means, Becca.
Drum roll. Do you expect to talk will return with Hobbs and Shaw?